Hey guys, welcome to the Sonic series. I'm using the power of teamwork to cover all 20 of these Sonic games. Looks like Sonic Heroes is next. Oh yeah, let's party! Outside of Sonic Lost World and Superstars, Sonic Heroes is, for some reason, the game in this franchise I think about the least. Maybe it's because of the simple structure, simple story, or something else entirely, but I constantly forget about this game in particular when thinking about the pre-06 era of Sonic platformers. This has made making a video on this game especially difficult, as I'm not really sure what I can go in depth with here. With all that said, however, the placement of this game speaks for itself. I really enjoyed this one. The mixed reception this game has had since its release did concern me going in, but I had way more fun than I didn't, even if the parts I wasn't having fun in blew visceral ass. We'll get to them when we get there, so why not just get into it, huh? Here's why Sonic Heroes is really good and stuff. Yeah. Setting up the level talk for this one will be fairly simple, unlike last time. There are 4 campaigns in this game, all following the exact same levels with either altered enemies and exits or entirely different objectives. Team Sonic's is the one we'll be focusing on, but I might as well quickly mention the pros and cons of the other campaigns now, just so I don't forget. Team Dark is the hard mode, with harder enemies placed around the levels and not much else. The levels are the exact same as Sonic's, so they're about as fun. Team Rose is the easy mode, placing less enemies around the levels and bringing the goal ring way earlier. I actually managed to get all the A ranks in this campaign as opposed to the others, so yeah. It's not as fun as the others, thanks to being super easy, but it is a good way of learning how exactly the mechanics work, as they do take some learning, to say the least. Finally, Team Chaotix stole my breakfast, ate it in front of me, and threw the ball at my feet. They suck. Basically, this campaign gives you a collection of missions to perform in each level to finish them, instead of the fast-paced get-to-the-goal gameplay of the other 3. Most of these are tolerable, to be fair, but some others are a bitch and a half, such as this one in Mystic Mansion. You gotta hit all of the colored flames with SBO's tornado attack. All of them. This took me God knows how long. There are some more annoying ones, but I think it's easy to understand why these are dumb and bad and dumb. With all campaigns covered, let's begin Sonic's campaign with... Is there a single person on this planet who does not love Seaside Hill? I'd argue this is one of the better opening levels in this franchise for doing so much with such a basic concept. Obviously, as you can tell from the gameplay, you're playing as 3 characters at once in this game, each with their own unique pros and cons. Sonic is the speed type, and he helps with those automated segments and enemies with shields thanks to his tornado ability. Tails is the flying type, and he can naturally fly around a lot and use Thunder Shoot to knock flying enemies to the ground. Knuckles is the power type, and he helps with formatting the squad into a spread out formation, as well as destroying enemies super quickly. A lot of the fun in this game comes from learning how to use each character's abilities quickly in the right spots, and is presented perfectly in this first level. There are so many ways to go about certain sections, and it's all up to what character you feel like using at those points. It never gets old. I love how the loops get bigger and bigger as you progress, the optional secrets for exploration are alive and well, and Knuckles says the S word in his normal attacks. It was literally intentional to have it sound like that, look it up. Anyways, each level theme in this game has 2 acts, and the second one for this theme, named Ocean Palace, is about as good. It focuses more on using the power character's glide and Tails' flight than before, so it's a little slower paced, ultimately making it a bit weaker than Seaside Hill. There is this really cool section towards the middle, however, featuring many alternate paths to follow depending on who you enter the cannons with. It's a great section, and I've only scratched the surface of the cool moments here. There's this really cool chase segment at the end with all of these wheel things, and it's really intense with how close they get to you sometimes. Good job, Sonic Team. Honestly, there's not really much else to say. It's just a fantastic opening level, kicking off the general vibe of the game brilliantly. Up next is Grand Metropolis, and this one is also really fun. We've got conveyors that propel you forward, precarious light speed dashes, and satisfying enemy chains to complete. Something this game does every now and then that I'm not a huge fan of, however, is forcing you to slow down a ton to open a door to progress. With enemy gauntlets it's fine, as the combat is fun, but with stuff like these buttons and the levers you push and pull, it's just a speed whiplash in a bad way. Obviously this level does do that here and there, but not enough to put me to sleep, thankfully. In terms of Act 2, named Power Plant, it brings in these vertical conveyors that push you upward, as well as these balls of energy you have to avoid. Sometimes you have to pay attention to the shadows of the ground to find where the energy balls will be, and it's a nice way of making you think more about positioning. This level really is where the flying formation shines, however, as there are some super cool moments where you can see the lower path below you if you're flying up the top. It's great. I'd rather skip these elevator segments, however, as they are huge time wasters that really just build pressure if you're aiming for the A rank. There's also this huge stressful section at the end where one slip up could lead to failure, and it kinda blows despite how cool of a set piece it is on paper. Outside of that, I do like the theming of this level and all, so I do have a good time here. It's just not as good as Seaside Hill. Casino Park is something else, man. Imagine pinball with shitty physics, alongside some of the less interesting platforming in the game. I think saying that stuff alone allows you to get that this level is kind of ass. You really have to get lucky in order to continue at some points, because the physics of this game tends to do whatever the hell it wants 90% of the time. I guess I do like the parts where you destroy the glass with your power type character. It kinda reminds me of Speed Highway. I don't know, Bingo Highway is about the same. I guess there are generally less moments of praying for the physics to work, so I guess it's better. Plus, I do like the bingo mechanic quite a lot. It gives you a greater reason to challenge yourself in these downward sections. Honestly, because of a certain other thing in this game we'll get to later, I feel like I tolerate these levels more than the average Joe, as I had to replay the second act a lot. That got me sorta used to the physics, so I kinda get how to win these. Again, it is quite random source, but I don't know, it could be a lot worse. At least the vibes are as stimulating as they should be, making me not despise this one. Rail Canyon is kind of awesome. This was back when rail grinding actually required you to pay attention to keep up speed, so it's quite the interesting romp. There are these moments where there are tons of rails covering the screen, trains barely missing you, explosions everywhere, and it's really cool visually. I'd honestly say this game has my second favourite rail grinding mechanics in the series, right behind Shadow 05, so yeah. Rail switching can fail sometimes, but it's not a constant issue that happens often, unlike what it may seem sometimes. There are also some slower, kind of awkward platforming moments, but they are infrequent enough to still let me have a good time here. Bullet Station is about the same, but maybe more awkward. There's a larger focus on smaller rails and secluded platforming, which I'm not the biggest fan of. The Act 2s do always have some awesome set pieces though, and Bullet Station does not disappoint. You enter these giant passages with trains, which you blow up and swiftly move on from, which is always an awesome visual. There are also these parts where you're shot out of a cannon and you have to aim for the rewards, and it's super fun. Overall, whilst Rail Canyon is there for the gameplay thrills, Bullet Station is there for the spectacle thrills, and it's pretty sweet. Frog Forest and its counterpart Lost Jungle have some of my favourite atmosphere out of the whole game. Part of that is the music, of course, but also the tonal shift from the aggressively mechanical Rail Canyon to the calm, luscious Frog Forest. I love the mechanic of the frogs making it rain, placing new trees and bouncy fruit to the level. It adds a sense of whimsy to the place that I adore. The vines that act as rails are super cool, the sense of danger is still there thanks to the height, and the level itself is simply great fun. Lost Jungle takes place a lot closer to the ground, with a neat inverse of the mechanic with the frogs before, being a black frog that removes parts of the level. This is where enemies with much greater health bars start to show up, like these huge guys with spiky hammers. You gotta wait for them to finish their spinning attack, and then knock them down to destroy them with a power character. This is as annoying as it sounds, unfortunately, and they show up in pretty much every level going forward, so expect me to complain about them. At least the final set piece with the alligator chasing you across the vines is super sick, ending off a pretty solid level that takes place after a great one. I do not know how to feel about Hang Castle. Obviously, if you couldn't tell from my colour scheme, I'm a pretty large Halloween and spooky fan, so this theme is S tier, immaculate spooky vibes from this place. The mechanic of flipping gravity to go places you otherwise couldn't, also an S tier mechanic. Love playing with gravity like that. There are some sections that do kinda blow, however, like this big tower section. I don't know what it is, but it's simply not fun, especially if you fall down and have to climb your way back up. Overall, however, I honestly forgot that this level does have some cool aspects until writing the script, probably because of the trauma induced by Team Chaotix's versions. Mystic Mansion, however, sort of feels too secluded. There's not really a good sense of direction here, which I guess does work for atmosphere, but not really for gameplay. I feel like in any other game it would work wonders, like Banjo-Kazooie for instance, but not this one for some reason. Oh yeah, it's because of the last section, it's not good. The concept's pretty cool, giving you a mini challenge you have to face with a recommended character type, but it's just not fun. Probably because the checkpoint's millions of years away? I don't know, but I just did not have a good time here for whatever reason. I think Mystic Mansion leans too far into the puzzle style of gameplay this game sometimes does, which I simply do not think is nearly as good as the fast-paced platforming and combat. Looking back, Hand Castle is better than I remember, but Mystic Mansion is worse. Egg Fleet is fucking sick! Until it isn't. It has the most hype intro imaginable, launching you high into the sky, showing countless Eggman shits below, readying you for an awesome finale. And for a good while, it is. It's quite exhilarating at first, platforming around these ships with some blood-pumping music that brings an unforgettable first time with it. Unfortunately, the level sorta loses its luster the longer it goes on for, boiling itself down to a collection of battle arenas and mid-floating segments that are just fun enough to be remembered fondly. There are some bitch-ass segments of course, and the enemies only get even harder and beefier, and the flying segments go on for a bit too long. It's truly a shame this level can't be as exceptional as it clearly deserves to be. The same can be said for Final Fortress 2, but I think the extremes are more prevalent. For instance, I think the actual platforming present is better than Egg Fleet, especially the intense rail grind against the lasers, but the enemies are definitely at their worst here. I totally understand it, this game is partially combat focused after all, but when the enemies have these cumbersome patterns and chunky health bars, that's when I begin to tap out, unfortunately. Don't worry, I know about Team Blast, it does help out a ton, but you're gonna have to fight these enemies without it eventually, thanks to the meter mechanic that it's tied to. With all this negativity said, however, I can't really bring myself to hate these levels. The atmosphere, the music, the actual fun parts all come together to create an unforgettable finale, and whilst it might not be the most solid finale, it is certainly one of the coolest. I really like Egg Fleet and Final Fortress, even with the weaker parts considered. That's it everyone, every major level covered. Like I said earlier, I don't really have a lot to say about this one, and I think it may be because of how to the point the entire game is. Cutscenes never last more than like 2 minutes, you immediately move on to the next level once you finish one, and the much longer length of every level compared to the average one from this era sorta makes my feelings balance out to a simple, really good. There are quite a few other aspects of the game I did not mention here, mainly because I wanted to save them for this next part, so why not just get there already? Outside of the levels, there are some aspects of the game that do outright suck, and I would be remiss if I did not mention those things. Let's begin with the boss fights. The bosses are a really interesting thing here because I think most of them would work and are even fun in some cases. Problems arise, however, thanks to the jank of this game. I'd argue that dying due to bugs is far more prevalent in this game than 06, and the bosses are a perfect showcase of that. Let's do a quick fire round covering every fight in the game excluding the final boss. Here we go. The Egg Hawk is functional, it does what it wants. You gotta chase it down, then attack it with any of your characters to destroy it part by part. As long as you don't get hit for no reason, you'll make it. All playable character fights are basically the same, which means they all suck. It is basically random whether or not the fight ends within 2 seconds or 3 minutes. There's no way to come up with a consistent strategy. Robot Carnival is a sign of miserable things to come. It is a huge enemy gauntlet that takes around 4 minutes to complete and is not fun the whole way through. Moving on. Egg Albatross is basically a less consistent Egg Hawk, and without any of the moments where the boss freezes in place. You gotta keep chasing it, praying you hit it. Robot Storm is one of, if not the worst fight in the entire franchise. It is a gauntlet of far tougher enemies than Robot Carnival, infinitely more annoying combinations of enemies, an even longer time sink, and dying once takes you back to the beginning. This took me so long in Sonic's campaign alone, and you have to do it 4 times to unlock the true ending. The only barely tolerable version of this is Team Rose's, but that's because it's the baby easy mode. I had to force myself to power up during Chaotix's version, blasting Frontier's boss music into my ears to just barely push through to the end. I would not wish this boss upon my greatest enemy, let alone anyone else. However you choose to play this game, make sure it's possible to skip this terrible experience in some way, so you do not suffer the way I unfortunately had to. Egg Emperor is probably one of the better fights here, but it does follow the same boring pattern as the other Eggman fights, and it breaks the most out of them all, so yeah. That's it, I'm done, yippee! The problem with the Eggman fights is that I can tell how they would be fun if the game did not break so often for no reason. There is no redeeming the other fights though, they just do not work no matter what bugs you fix. Speaking of bugs, let's go more in depth about that now. Sonic 06 is undeniably a more broken game than this one. There are glitches which don't even seem fundamentally possible by normal video game quality standards in that one. However, that game did balance it out a bit by including some really fun glitches to pull off. I go more in depth about that in the video on that game of course, so I bring it up here. Well, I feel like Sonic Heroes does not have the luxury of including fun glitches alongside the broken, annoying ones. I guess finishing a character fight in 2 seconds could be considered one, but I don't know if that's intentional or not, so... So many deaths in this entry feel like either a lack of understanding with the mechanics, or an implosion with the code. I'd genuinely say it happened to me more here than 06, it was that annoying. It's not just deaths either, sometimes getting hit just makes no sense. For example, these Eggman's robots with swords have a permanent hitbox attached to the sword they wield, even when they are not swinging it. If you humming attack them with Sonic, there is a good chance you will get hit because of that. The game also expects you to know exactly what it wants at multiple points. I constantly die when trying to land on rails far below me because I instinctively hold the general direction they seem to be going in to get a head start. You're always supposed to do nothing, and watch yourself fall down, which I really only got into my head around halfway through the game. I know this is more of a me problem, but stuff like this happens super often throughout the whole game thanks to a lack of explaining things super well to you. Obviously, this is fixed when you actually know how to play the game, like I mostly do now, but I basically just learned that you can hold the jump button after homing attacking to bounce off an enemy farther. I beat this whole game in January. This lack of communication is why so many people dislike this game. They simply did not understand the inner workings of the game to succeed. I don't think there's anything wrong with poorly explained mechanics as long as you can have a good time after you learn them. It just makes some people incapable of having fun with that thing, which simply just sucks. Unfortunately, we're still not done with the negatives of this game, as there is one final gameplay avenue I need to mention, that being... yeah, the special stages suck. What can I really say that hasn't already been said, honestly? They could easily be great, it's just that they are uncontrollable somehow. It's practically random whether or not the game gives you mercy and hands over the Chaos Emerald at some points. That's about it. I have absolutely nothing to bring to the table with these. They weren't fun. Let's move on. So after all that complaining, how do I still enjoy this game? Well, I feel like this Sonic game in particular is the definition of a roller coaster of emotions. One minute you'll be blasting through the levels saying, "This is so peak!" And the next you die to some random hitbox that exists and you scream, "This shit is so ass!" I was having consistent fun throughout the whole experience up until the Robot Storm fight, so I feel like a first playthrough will be super fun for you up until then. I especially remember this one time where after the Team Rose fight in Sonic Story ended after 10 seconds I was already laughing my ass off, and then Sonic went and said,
"Marriage? No way!"
That only made me laugh even harder. The negatives I covered earlier only really come into play when you get to them, so I still would consider this game really fun more than it isn't. With all this miscellaneous stuff covered, let's talk about the story. Sonic Heroes' story is a good example of a Sonic story that doesn't really go in depth on much. There is the clear exceptions, like with Shadow's story and the final story, but each campaign is extremely one-note, and that's not really a bad thing. As long as the story manages to keep you moving forward throughout the whole journey, I don't think there's anything wrong with a simple plot. This does, however, leave me with a lot less to talk about, so I can swiftly breeze through a lot of these plot lines and focus more on how the game characterizes its characters. This was the first brand new Sonic game to release on all available platforms at the time, so I feel like this game attempted to focus on specific caricatures so people can get a basic understanding of how each character acts and interacts with one another. Let's begin, of course, with Team Sonic. Sonic's story is tied with Team Rose's for being the most basic of them all. Eggman's back at taking over the world again, and he and the boys go to stop him. Nothing super interesting happens along the way, unless you include this strange man that appears at the end of Rail Canyon's boss, so let's cover the characters. Sonic just makes me happy, man. I think this is Ryan Drummond's best performance out of all of them, honestly. Sonic had better lines in Adventure 2, don't get me wrong, but there's so much more energy here than in all previous games, man. I love it. I also just love how excited Sonic is about practically everything. He boils down the journey as a party, encourages the gang to do most of the crazy stunts in the levels, but he still takes the situation seriously and is committed to saving the world once again. Tails is where things get a bit iffy, however. No offense to William Corkery, but the SA2 voice for Tails was far better in my opinion, as well as the character himself. In SA2, Tails became confident in his own skill, learning that he can't rely on Sonic for everything. This is all kinda backpedaled on in Heroes. He acts like a 4-year-old, screams over everything, and is simply more annoying than previous games. I won't say I hate him, however, as there are just too many entertaining lines from the guy for me to dislike. Definitely a weaker character than previous iterations, yet still entertaining nonetheless. Finally, Knuckles is about as good as he is in SA2. Same voice actor, same personality, completed character arc, chill vibes, it's all here. I especially like the line,
We're not going there, are we?
followed up by Sonic's,
Yes, we are.
It really shows how their bond has grown since S3 and K. And that's about it. A fun plot with fun characters, nothing more. Team Dark is where things get more interesting, however. Shadow was supposed to be dead after Sonic Adventure 2, as I'm sure most people know of by this point, so bringing him back was definitely a controversial decision. I think it paid off, however, as this story is pretty darn good. Rouge finds Shadow in a secret Eggman facility, and Omega is there to keep watch. The moment Shadow is released from containment, Omega starts gunning stuff down, and before Shadow can fight back, Rouge barges in to calm the two. Shadow can't remember who he is, and Omega is resentful of Eggman for keeping him in this facility for God knows how long. This makes Rouge convince them all to band together and look for Eggman for answers. Every one of these guys is fantastic in this game, man. I love them all. Shadow's arc is great. He eventually finds a broken down robot copy of himself and starts to question if he really even has a backstory, if he is the real Shadow. Later on, he decides that even if he is not the real Shadow, he's still Shadow, and continues to fight for what he believes in. This is an extremely brief summary, more than usual, it's way better done in-game. I just wanted to show off that a compelling arc is present, and it's good. Rouge is also great in this one, showing off her caring side a lot more than SA2, but not fully cementing it like in 06. Omega was actually made for this game thanks to the devs respecting the story of Gamma in Adventure 1 and wishing not to use him. Pretty ironic considering the revived Shadow in the room. I still love this dude though, he is so bloodthirsty, it's comical. He calls other robots, and has so many lines about destruction, I love it. His line at the end of the campaign is super interesting, however. He says that if all these shadows were cloned from the original, it means said original must exist somewhere, giving more hope to Rouge after thinking he's gone for good. It's all great for Team Dark, no notes here, but the story is not the same for... Team Rose is pretty weird. Each character in it is looking for someone they care about. Cream's looking for Chocola the Chow, Big's looking for Froggy, again, and Amy is looking for Sonic. A little too obsessively, to be blunt. Yeah, Amy's obsession with Sonic became her main character trait in this game, far more than previous and future ones, and it honestly kinda ruins her character here. We all know the line,
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me.
and that unfortunately sums up her character here. It doesn't come across as playful, it's more forceful, especially considering the boss fight that takes place directly after. The others at least function, though. Cream's nice and wholesome, but that's where my opinion ends on her, not even just about this game, too. Big's big, so he's pretty funny. We're done here. This game was Team Chaotix's triumphant return, and I love these three goofballs to death, man. SBO is pretty cool with his ninja aesthetic and deep voice, Vector is loud and dumb, making for great comedy, and Charmy is just hilarious. Their whole plotline is the silliest, yet arguably the most important of them all. They all work for a detective agency, and they get a call from a mysterious voice giving them a job that pays a ton, so they naturally follow through with it. The more you continue, however, the more it is revealed who this mystery man is. Eggman. This calls into question a lot from the previous campaigns. Why is Eggman doing all these terrible things if he's suddenly helping these guys out on the side? This is all explained in the final cutscene and the final story, so I think we should talk about that now.
Then who was it? Who locked you up here for trying to conquer the world? It was...
Flashing lights warning here, there's a lot more of it than in previous things, just to let you know, yeah. Each version of Eggman you've destroyed in previous campaigns was a fake, and the real Eggman was bunkered inside a random ship he's got. Something tried to lock him up there to conquer the world itself, and that being was... Neo Metal Sonic. He's been posing as Eggman for the whole game to collect data on how each character fights, and he uses this data to transform himself into an entirely different form, Metal Madness, and this cutscene lasts a long time. It's kind of funny, to be honest. Anyways, Eggman knows what Metal Sonic can do, thanks to being its creator, and he understands that it's basically impossible to kill this dude at this point in time. We need Chaos Emeralds to be able to defeat this insane-looking beast, but we already have them thanks to doing all the miserable special stages. The plan is for Team Rose, Dark, and Chaotix to buy Team Sonic enough time to go super, leading to the Metal Madness boss fight. These final bosses are the only ones I actually think work. You just gotta get used to them a bit before having fun. Basically, there's this little dot on Metal Sonic that appears and changes color to one of the 3 types of characters available, meaning you have to hit it with one of the other character types to deal damage. There are 3 phases with increasing difficulty, beginning with Team Rose, then Team Chaotix, and ending with Team Dark. As long as you take your time, learn the attack patterns, and don't be too risky, you will succeed and probably have a decent time. I did kinda suck at first, however, as I didn't realize you were supposed to hit the spot with someone else. It's still a good fight though, but Metal Sonic is not done yet. Madness is not even his final form, as he grows wings and soars into the sky, becoming Metal Overlord. Everything's all prepared on Sonic's side though, so it's time for another Supersonic final boss with the help of his friends by his side. This fight is honestly deceptively simple. All you gotta do is attack the funny crystals he shoots at you to team blast him around 6 times or so. Like a lot of these final fights however, the vibes are really where it shines. The music is blasting, the characters are hyped up and confident, and the environment looks awesome. The most interesting part of this fight however, is the fact that we get an explanation for why Metal Sonic is doing this in the first place. He believes himself to be the true, real Sonic, and he needs to go to any lengths to prove that to himself. He never could defeat Sonic in his normal form, so he changed into this awesome looking beast for that sole purpose. This is such a unique motive for a villain, especially for one like Metal Sonic, and I absolutely love it for that. This is definitely Metal Sonic's best game, even if I can't really decide whether or not I like him more in CD or not. Oh well, it's still an awesome interpretation, and a great way to end the game on. Once he's down, he asks why he just can't defeat Sonic, no matter what, to which Sonic states,
Because we're Sonic heroes.
Say that again?
Amy chases Sonic away, Tails follows the two, Cream and Big say goodbye with their rescued pals, Knuckles and Rouge have a cute little back and forth, the Chaotixes chase down Eggman for their payment, and Shadow and Omega contemplate things with Metal Sonic in their arms. We then cut to a familiar environment with the Sonic heroes running as happy as can be, ending the game. Again, this game doesn't have a super crazy plot that'll blow you away or anything of the sort. It's just good fun that doesn't actively harm the game in any way. Again, there's nothing wrong with a simple plot, it's just less interesting to talk about than a more in-depth one like 06's. With the story covered, there is one last thing to mention, so let's get into that music now. This game's soundtrack is really damn good, man. It's full of memorable level themes and vocal tracks, but I honestly think it's a little overrated. It's mainly because the tracks are so few and far between in this one compared to something like Adventure 2. That game has loads of memorable songs I could listen to forever, when this game simply has a good amount of super memorable ones. Let's not dilly-dally and actually cover them though. Seaside Hill has good vibes incarnate. It's the perfect song to play when you need to cheer up for whatever reason. I love Casino Park's theme. It's so chill and calming, unlike the usual casino level theme we get. Rail Canyon is awesome, man. It's super intense and atmospheric together, creating an iconic song that was remade wonderfully in Shadow Generations. Frog Forest is another super calming song, fitting the luscious environment perfectly. It creates a perfect contrast from what came before to now. Mystic Mansion is spooky incarnate, not really coming from anything else in the franchise. It's super underrated. I hope this kind of level theme comes back in the future. I love Halloween, man, it's so cool. Egg Fleet is one of the most hype level themes we've gotten in this series. It is constant adrenaline in a way I always forget until I'm listening to it. Probably my favorite level theme in the game. This game is probably up there with the most vocal themes in the franchise, and they are all great. Beginning with Team Sonic's theme, We Can, it fits the hype, happy-go-lucky vibe Sonic brings to everyone he meets.
Together we can overcome all the odds. It's never as hard as it seems.
Follow Me always surprises me with how much I enjoy it, similar to My Sweet Passion actually. I just love how fun it is, man, take a listen.
Follow me inside, outside, through the stratosphere. The moon is shining for you. Knows that I adore you.
This machine is damn awesome. I really feel like I need to listen to it more. It's super edgy in the best way. Team Chaotix fits the three wacky detectives genuinely perfectly. Basically just glazes their agency for the whole song, it's so funny.
Detectives, you all on your side. Directives, tracking down your crimes.
I'm gonna cover the main theme of the game now before the other song, so Sonic Heroes. Another absolute banger coming from Crush 40, the hype and excitement from this song never gets old. Finally, What I'm Made Of is kind of peak. It is definitely one of my personal favorite vocal themes in this franchise, having such an impactful chorus, incredible lyrics, and interesting theming. I always wonder whose perspective this song comes from. Is it Metal Sonic or Normal Sonic? I lean more towards Normal Sonic personally. Take a gander.
Trying to reach inside of me, trying to drain my energy. Let me show you just what I'm made of.
And we are done. Again, pretty fantastic soundtrack, just not one of my personal favorites overall. Let's end this vid. Sonic Heroes is a pretty sweet game in my opinion. Sorry if you expected a year-long analysis on this game or something, I'm simply just not too passionate about it. I really love it, yeah, just don't have anything interesting to bring to the conversation. I wouldn't be surprised if my opinion on this game goes down with time, to be honest, so don't be surprised if I start leaning more towards disliking it. I'm sure I'll still enjoy it though, there's no way I'll hate this game. With this one covered, you may or may not be surprised at the fact that the next entry I have even less to talk about. See you then, I guess. Bye.